Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the Thursday Night Football Showdown slate on Draftkings for Week 11. For this Week 11 Thursday night game, we got a game between the Steelers and the Browns. We're going to talk through this Showdown slate on Draftkings, work our way through the player pool. I'll hit on all the guys that I think are playable on this Showdown slate. We'll look at the implied totals for this game, who's the favorites. We'll look at like snap counts from last week, guys that played a decent amount of snaps that maybe could be flyers on this Showdown slate. We'll just kind of talk through it all. Just before we do get started, as always, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We've been growing a lot lately. The channel's been growing a lot. We're close to 17,000 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to everyone who has already subscribed to the channel. Like I said, if you haven't subscribed, would greatly appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure to leave any comments down below in the comment section. If you have comments, questions regarding this slate, you can leave that down below in the comment section. You can also leave any feedback as well. Also, be sure to hit me up on Twitter. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at DFS by Noah. You can DM me if you have questions, comments. You can hit me up over there. But let's go ahead and take a look at this showdown slate for tonight. Starting off at the top, James Conner is our most expensive option. He's $10,800. As a captain play, he's $16,200. I don't know if Conner's going to be my top captain play for this showdown slate. The matchup with the Browns is definitely good. You can run on this Browns defense. Conner is coming back from injury, so maybe that's a bit of a concern, but he did practice in full on Tuesday, so it seems he's fully healthy. He's fully ready to go. With how Jalen Samuels has been used recently, I expect Samuels to continue to see work. I mean, he's going to continue to play snaps, but Conner's going to be the RB1 for the Steelers. Probably going to get anywhere from like 13 to 15 carries. They'll use him in the passing game as well. He's a fine captain play, but there's not a lot of great value that I see, so I'm probably going to be saving a little bit at captain. My favorite captain play is definitely Odell Beckham, who we'll talk about in a second. But before we get to Odell Beckham, you do have Nick Chubb at $10,600. It's a really tough spot for Nick Chubb, facing this really good Steelers defense. The Steelers have one of the better defenses in the league. They have a great run defense. Plus, Kareem Hunt was pretty heavily involved last week, especially in the passing game. He took some pass down work from Nick Chubb. I'm not sure how many targets Chubb got last week. Got 4 targets last week. I know Kareem Hunt got like 7 or 8 targets. So that's definitely a concern. With Chubb being so closely priced to James Conner, if I'm going to go to one of those running backs, I would definitely prefer James Conner. But like I said, I really like Odell Beckham here. 9,200 against the Steelers. I mean, this isn't the best spot. He's probably going to line up against Joe Hayden, and Hayden's a solid corner. I mean, Beckham's just had so many tough matchups this season, especially just his last 3 games. Having to go up against the Bills and Tre'Davious White, had to go up against the Broncos and Chris Harris, had to face that really good Patriots defense. I mean, Odell Beckham just has not had really many easy matchups this season. This isn't one either, but still, this is going to be a guy that gets a ton of volume. He's going to get the targets. It seems like they're trying to force feed Odell. Last week against Buffalo, he got 12 targets in that game. I mean, 9,200 for Odell is just too cheap on a showdown slate where you're really searching for upside, and obviously Odell has the most upside out of probably any player on this showdown slate. Although he hasn't really shown it this year, I think he only has one big game. He had 31 Draftkings points week 2 against the Jets. Since then, you haven't had many big games from Odell, but still the upside is there for him. He's one of the more talented receivers in the league. Playing him at captain is going to free you up some salary, which we're definitely going to need on this showdown slate because there isn't much value that I see that I really like. So really like Odell at 9,200. We'll build out a couple lineups towards the end of the video. I'm for sure going to have a lineup with Odell at captain at the end of the video. But then you got the quarterbacks. You got Baker Mayfield, 9K, Mason Rudolph, 8,400. I mean, both of these guys are definitely in play, especially because they're kind of priced down. Usually all the quarterbacks, or most quarterbacks on showdown slates are like over 10K. You got Mayfield at 9K, Rudolph at 8,400. Both guys have had pretty rough seasons. I mean, Mayfield, he's throwing the ball a ton because the Browns are just having a trail, or they're trailing a lot in games. If we do look at the total and the spread in this game right now, it's a 41 total with the Browns as 2.5-point favorites. So it's expected to be a close game. I imagine Mayfield's going to have to throw 30-35 times. I don't see Nick Chubb having much success on the ground against this good Steelers defense. So Baker Mayfield's a fine play at 9K. If you're playing Odell at captain, which is probably what I would be doing in my main lineup, then I'm probably going to have Mayfield in those lineups because usually when I play a receiver at captain, I want to pair him with his quarterback. That's just kind of how I correlate my lineups. Kind of the same with Mason Rudolph at 8,400. If I have to choose one of the quarterbacks, I mean, it's really close. I think right now I'd probably side with Mayfield just because I like his receivers more. But Rudolph's a fine play as well at 8,400. if you're playing like Juju at captain, if you're playing Deontay Johnson at captain, or if you're going cheap with James Washington at captain, you definitely want to pair him with his quarterback and correlate those lineups. So Rudolph at 8,400 does make plenty of sense. Jalen Samuels at 8,800 is definitely going to be an avoid for me. With James Conner coming back, there's just no way I pay 8,800 for Jalen Samuels. He's going to continue to see work, but he's not going to get the work that he was getting before. He wasn't very effective on the ground. I expect Conner to get a lot of the carries now. They're still going to use Jalen Samuels in the passing game because that's what he's best at. But still, at 8,800, really hard to go to him on this slate with him being so priced up. Juju Smith-Schuster is kind of a guy I'm probably going to be avoiding as well. The volume just hasn't been there for him this season. Mason Rudolph doesn't really throw the ball deep. It seems like the Steelers want to check down to the running back. They want to throw like short slant routes. Rudolph's just not going to Juju a lot this season. Just 6 targets last week against the Rams. I mean, he just hasn't been that effective. This isn't the best matchup either. I mean, the Browns are getting healthy. Their secondary is starting to get healthy with Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams coming back. I mean, he did have a good game against the Dolphins, but I mean, that was the Dolphins, so I don't really take that much into account. It's really hard to trust Juju right now. He's got upside, obviously, but if I can get $600, I would much rather play Odell, who I feel like just gives you much more slate-breaking upside. But then you got Jarvis Landry at 8K, who's firmly in play. Landry continues to see just massive volume every week. 3 straight weeks of double-digit targets. We know when Baker Mayfield drops back a throw, Landry and Odell are the 2 guys he's looking to first. So you could definitely go to Landry here. He'll play out of the slot, so he'll be able to avoid I forgot his name. He'll be able to avoid Joe Hayden, which I guess is a much better spot for Landry, a much better matchup. At 8K, I mean, he's a fine play. He's not like my favorite play on the slate, though. So let's talk about some of the other receivers. You got Deontay Johnson, 6,400. I mean, he's another guy you could look to as just like a guy that's going to probably get 5 to 6 targets. We can go over and look at the snaps last week for the wide receiver position for the Steelers, see how their snaps went. So obviously, Juju played a lot of snaps, 74%. Deontay Johnson played 72% of the snaps last week. It seems like that's kind of where they're going to be most weeks. You do have James Washington playing about 50% of the snaps. He'll play a lot in like 3 wide receiver sets. It's mainly Juju and Deontay, though, playing a lot of the snaps and going to see most of the volume. 6,400 for him does make plenty of sense. Probably won't use him at captain, but as like a cheaper flex play, I think he's for sure a guy you could look to. Same with like Kareem Hunt, James Washington. I think both of these guys are in play under 6K. Kareem Hunt did see a pretty good amount of volume in his first game back from suspension injury. 4 carries last week against the Bills, 30 rushing yards. He was used heavily in the passing game, though. 9 targets, 7 catches for 44 yards, had 14 DraftKings points. If we do look at the running back snaps last week for the Browns, you did have Nick Chubb playing a large majority of the snaps, 81%. You also had Kareem Hunt playing 54% of the snaps, so they were on the field a lot together. You had the Browns running a lot of 2 running back sets with both Chubb and Hunt on the field together, and I expect them to continue doing that, so Hunt's going to be involved. I don't know if he gets 9 targets again, but he's clearly like their pass down back, I guess you could say. At 5,800 with DraftKings being full PPR scoring, on a slate where there's not a lot of great value, I think Kareem Hunt is firmly in play. Same with James Washington. I mean, he's not playing a ton of snaps, which is obviously a concern. Only 50% of the snaps last week, but he's still getting targeted. I mean, he's got at least 6 targets in 3 of his last 4 games. He did score last week against the Rams. I think there is a little bit of a connection there with Washington and Rudolph. They did go to the same college together. They were college teammates. 5,600, I mean, definitely a fine flex value play. If you're building out your lineup and you got 5,600 left, I would not be afraid to put Washington in there at 5,600. I think the big question, like between Hunt, Washington, and McDonald, is who do you go with between these 3 guys? McDonald's another guy that just sees plenty of volume. He plays a large majority of the snaps as well. If we look at the tight end snaps for the Steelers, McDonald played 97% of the snaps last week, so he's going to be on the field a ton. Nick Vannett did play 46% of the snaps, but they really only use Nick Vannett as a blocking tight end. He's not really out there running routes, whereas McDonald is obviously their tight end that they use in pass down situations to catch balls. So he's probably going to get similar volume to James Washington. Cleveland has struggled against tight ends this season, so I think Vance McDonald's firmly in play as well. Honestly, think you could probably play like 2 of these 3 guys between Hunt, Washington, and McDonald as values. And that's probably going to allow you to fit in like Odell at captain and pair him with this quarterback. You might even be able to get both quarterbacks in there if you go that route. So Hunt, Washington, McDonald, all in play for me as cheaper values. Then you got like the defenses. I think are fine on this showdown slate. I don't expect this to be a very high scoring game. The Steelers defense has been incredible this season. Baker Mayfield has really struggled. We know he will turn the ball over a lot. He'll take plenty of sacks. I usually don't play defenses on showdown slates, but I think the Steelers defense is firmly in play. I would much rather have them over the Browns defense. Then guys like Rashard Higgins, Demetrius Harris, the kickers. I mean, these guys are just hard to trust. Like Higgins is hard to trust right now. He's just not getting a ton of volume, and he's just not playing a large majority of the snaps either. Plus, he's $4,400. It's not like we're getting him at a like flyer price. It's not like he's like $200. He's up to $4,400. Same with Demetrius Harris at $4,200. Honestly, if I'm going to play someone like 4K and below, it's probably going to be one of the kickers that I'd go to. If they fit in my lineup, I wouldn't mind plugging in a kicker just because there's not a lot of great value that I see just looking like under 4K. There's not a lot of great punt plays. Even though Nick Van Nett's playing like 50% of the snaps, he's not out there running routes and catching balls. He's just out there to block, so it's hard to go to him as well. So I think that's kind of it for the player pool for this showdown slate. Let's talk through a couple lineup builds. Definitely wanted to build out a lineup with Odell at captain, and if I'm going to build out a lineup with Odell at captain, I do want to correlate that lineup with Baker Mayfield or pair him with Baker Mayfield, I should say. So if you go Odell at captain, Mayfield in the flex, that's going to leave you $6,800 remaining per player. And I talked about these guys, Hunt, Washington, McDonald. I think all three are in play as values. If we were to plug in, I guess we'd go McDonald, Washington, just for now, see what that leaves us. Plugging in McDonald, Washington leaves us $8,100 remaining per player. You could definitely get in one of the studs at the top. If you wanted to go with James Conner, that would leave you enough to play the Steelers defense, which is a route you could take. If you were to plug in Nick Chubb, I don't think you'd have enough for Kareem Hunt, and I don't know if I'd want to play Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb together. I'd probably go with Mason Rudolph here, $8,400. That leaves you $7,800 remaining per player. So there's ways you could go here. You could play Deontay Johnson and leave some salary on the table. You could try and drop down from one of these guys and get up to like Jarvis Landry if you wanted to go that route. If you were to drop down from one of them, you'd probably have to go from McDonald to the Steelers defense, which I don't know if I'd want to do since I have like I have Baker in there. I have Odell at captain. I'm assuming those guys have big games. That probably means the Steelers defense isn't doing too well. So I don't know if that's a route I would go, but I guess you could take that route. I think the defenses are in play, just depending on how you construct your lineup. But it seems pretty easy to get Odell at captain with both quarterbacks. Once you do that, that leaves you $6,266. So that's probably the route I'd be taking on this showdown slate. Then it just kind of depends on where you want to go from here. I talked about all these three values I like, Hunt, Washington, Donald. You could plug all three of those guys in if you wanted to and just leave salary on the table. Leave $2,000 on the table. Have a bit of a contrarian lineup. Or you could like get up to Chubb, Samuels, and then go to one of these cheap guys. But I talked about it like the kickers are fine plays. The defenses are fine plays. But there's no like $3,000, $4,000 player that I feel like is a great value. So trying to save like with the top guys going down from like Connor to Odell at captain is probably the way to go on this showdown slate, since like a lot of these guys down here 4K and below just aren't on the field enough to be viable plays. Like Ricky Seals-Jones has gotten to the end zone a few times the last few weeks. I mean, he scored in Week 6 against Seattle, but he's just not getting a ton of volume, and it's really hard to trust him, and he's up to $3,600 as well. So I think the way to go, Odell at captain, pair him with Baker Mayfield, probably play Mason Rudolph as well, and then kind of work from there. If you want to go with Hunt, James Washington, Vance McDonald, you could do that. But I think that's it for this showdown slate, guys. Just a quick run through of it. Usually I try and get these showdown videos out on Wednesdays, usually a day before the slate starts. These are usually just me like kind of running through the slate, talking for about 10 to 15 minutes. Hopefully you guys did enjoy these showdown videos. I do try and get them out as much as possible. It is a bit harder now with NBA going on, trying to get up NBA content daily as well. But still don't want to forget about the showdown slates. I'll still have NFL videos up for the main slates as well. So a ton of content out there. Would always appreciate it if you guys would subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like down below. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at DFSbyNoah. You can contact me over there. I'm very active over on Twitter, always on Twitter throughout the day. But anyways, good luck on the showdown slate, guys. I appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.